Our final storyteller is a father, a husband, an evolutionary ecologist originally from Warwick, Rhode Island. He's an avid hiker when possible and metal music enthusiast, even when alienating. He's also currently a postdoc at the University of Maryland College Park, working with Dr. Eric Haig on sperm competition in nematodes, which is just an incredibly cool topic. Please welcome to our virtual stage, Justin Van Goor. Hello.
Hi.
How are you feeling, Justin?
Let's not go there.
Honesty.
I felt better.
All right, let's get you going. I'm very, very good for this. Take it away.
All right, let's get it over with. I met TJ when I was 18. I'm not sure exactly when we met, but it was probably standing outside some random party in Western Massachusetts. TJ was 9 years older than me and was bald and bearded, but what I remember most was his necklace choice, an upside-down cross. Not a crucifix per se, just kind of Jesus hanging upside down. This sort of blasphemic and sardonic sense of humor appealed to me greatly, and I knew that we would get along well. Before this, I never had a friend that I could talk about black metal with before. This became the backbone of our friendship, and we would bond over it for years. We'd chat for hours about the news and minutiae of this niche corner of the metal universe, and he'd usually talk shit too. Where TJ was a musician, my role in the metal world was strictly that of a fan. I've come to tell people that the only instrument that I know how to play is the microscope. Though we largely agreed on black metal music, he hated my love for the folkier styles that incorporated flutes and shit, as he would say. He could have strange opinions, though. For instance, he adored Lady Gaga because he believed that she was a closeted Satanist and therefore worth his time. Neither one of us took our interest in music too seriously, though, and I think that's why we got along so well. We love that metal is its own biggest parody. TJ was always into drinking and partying, maybe more so than many others that I had known. But I guess I chalked this up to the college lifestyle, and I didn't think too deeply about it. After 5 years of hanging out and listening to music, TJ moved to Boston, like nearly everyone else I knew, and I moved west to Iowa for grad school. In the year between getting my bachelor's and going to grad school, I worked a number of gritty food service jobs, so I was pretty excited at the prospect of doing something else with my time. It was a pretty big change. Between getting adjusted to my new research program, teaching, doing field work, meeting new friends, including my girlfriend, I quickly became engrossed in my work and very busy. From this point on, my relationship with TJ continued over the phone. He'd call me about once a week, but things were largely the same for him, partying and thinking about music. He even called me quite regularly when I was doing field work in Mexico. I remember being in El Sargento, Baja California Sur, where we rented a field house, having to sit on my neighbor's roof, who had Wi-Fi, in the middle of the 110-degree Mexican summer heat, feeling mega annoyed to have to talk to TJ about black metal, burning alive in the sun. Sometimes I'd rather be doing almost anything else, unfortunately. I was also distracted mentally quite frequently at this time. My dad, who struggled with alcoholism for my entire life, was in steady decline. Now, I could tell you about dozens of my favorite black metal albums, like an encyclopedia, but I had no idea what cirrhosis was, or that such a diagnosis was essentially a death sentence for someone like him, unemployed and uninsured. After I returned from my first field season in 2013, he ultimately lost his battle. I buried my head in my work. I tried to stay busy, but it was the dumb kind of busy. The kind where you're doing a lot, but not getting a lot done. Basically doing anything that I could to avoid thinking about him. I don't recommend coping in this way. Eventually, the phone calls with TJ became more infrequent, down to about once a month to once every other month. My life kept moving forward. When I invited TJ to my wedding in 2015, he said he couldn't make it, but he offered us his satanic blessings, which is another gift that we received that we didn't put on the registry. During this time, TJ's drinking started to go downhill. He got kicked out of a shared apartment with friends and eventually started living in group homes and rehab facilities, mostly unsuccessfully. At a certain point, the phone calls stopped altogether. 5 years passed. It was 2020, and I was a postdoc in Maryland. I was married, and I had a son. One Friday evening, I got a voicemail from TJ. He said that he was going through one of his notebooks with all of his contacts and wanted to see what I was up to. I called him back and he picked up immediately. Before I knew it, we were back to talking about the same old shit, like no time had passed at all. He'd been through hell, for sure, but he tried not to spend a lot of time on this. He was suffering from various health problems. For example, he told me that the last time he was hospitalized, he was put in a room with someone in the midst of a very intense mental health crisis. He said that he couldn't get any sleep and was getting jaundiced as a result. I tried to explain to him that I don't think that that's how these things work, but it didn't get very far. Importantly, while we were on the phone, it was as if all of his problems were gone, and I could quickly come to the realization that he really just wanted someone to talk to, somehow to feel normal again. On my end, I was really excited to talk to him. It had been a long time, and I had heard such horrible things from my friends. It was relieving to hear him in relatively good spirits. We talked a few times after this, always for a long time, usually at night, and sometimes up until my phone died. He called me a number of times after this, but I couldn't pick up. Being a postdoc and a father and a husband really drags the time out of you. So I couldn't pick up the phone for him, which bothered me, of course, but I always told myself that I would call him back. A few more months passed. On April 11th, I got a phone call from my friend Hunter. I remember the date because it was the day I was scheduled to get my first Pfizer vaccine at the mega FEMA site that was located up the road from my apartment. I had known Hunter for many years. I lived with him and I worked with him. He was even the officiant for my wedding. His standard emotion was sarcastic apathy. Strangely, though, I could tell from Hunter's voice that he had been crying. I went onto the balcony and he told me that TJ had died. They found him alone in his apartment. The doctors had told him that he would die if he didn't stop drinking, and he didn't, so now he was dead. I wasn't necessarily surprised, but I felt numb and leaned up against the railing of my balcony, watching the wind blow through the trees. The 13th would have been his 41st birthday. I was pretty short with Hunter on the phone. I didn't really know what to say to him. I had to leave anyway for my vaccine appointment. Talk about a surreal experience. I just learned that my friend, who I knew was suffering, had died, and now I had to report to the FEMA Center straight out of a zombie apocalypse film to be stabbed in the arm by a National Guardsman. After I got the shot, I was led into the giant, sterile white waiting room where rows and rows of people sat in chairs on their phones as they waited their 15 minutes to make sure they hadn't gotten any negative side effects from the shot. I decided I'd use my 15 minutes to climb into my own head and try to sort out my feelings. Of course, I sat there and I thought about TJ. But then also, of course, my brain turned to my dad. How could I have not seen the parallels? After watching my dad wither away and die, surely I should have known what was happening to TJ. How could I have been so fucking blind? I think my brain just censored the reality of the situation. Like a scared child, I covered the blanket over my face, shielding me from the truth that sat right in front of me. I buried my head in my own life and my work instead of being there for TJ, even though I knew that he needed help. I wonder what could have happened had I done things differently. If I could have just forced myself to have some very uncomfortable conversations, would he still be alive? I frustrate myself with this egotistical notion, thinking that I could have possibly had the power to change anything. Was it even my responsibility? Could I have changed things even if I tried to? Without retreating into the comfortable platitude that they needed to want to change, I acknowledge that I could have done more to help these people. I wish I had picked up the phone more often for TJ. I wish I had gone to see him. I wish I had a better relationship with my dad, especially towards the end. This is my Sisyphean weight. I'll struggle with this endlessly without the possibility for absolution. I can never know how much I hurt these people, and I can never know how much I could have helped them. Now I see these people sometimes in my dreams. When my brain is feeling particularly cruel, I'm forced to watch them die all over again. I wake up feeling confused, maybe thinking that their deaths were the bad dream, until the reality starts to settle in again. I had one of these dreams just last week. Aside from sadness and regret, I also feel another familiar emotion, anger. I'm mad that my children will never get to meet my dad. Instead, they'll get to bring flowers to a stone slab in South Dakota. I'm mad that I live in a society in which people with mental health and substance abuse problems are treated so horribly. TJ and my dad were not bad people, they were damaged people. This world can be so full of darkness and ugliness, but these people brought me color, texture, and beauty, and it fucking sucks that they're gone. When I got home from the vaccine appointment, I decided to go for a walk around my neighborhood with some music. I was listening to the shoegaze band Nothing's album, Tired of Tomorrow, and I only made it to the second song, which is ironically titled The Dead Are Dumb, before I had a bit of an epiphany. The fuck was I doing? TJ would make fun of me so fucking hard if he knew that I was walking around listening to sad music, shoegaze of all things, and feeling sad about him. He would make fun of me if he knew I was talking with all of you. While he wasn't your stereotypical metalhead, he did find people getting sad over small things hilarious. This is a dude that told his friends years ago that when he died, he wanted them to sprinkle his ashes into a blunt and smoke him. I think for TJ, life needed to be about more than sadness. I think he would agree that negativity is part of life, but one shouldn't dwell on this negativity other than to learn the lessons needed to move on and become a better version of yourself. In this way, I think TJ has helped me, and I wish I could repay him. But instead, I decided to change the music and kept walking. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us and trusting your story with us, Justin.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you so much. It is always incredibly difficult to share a story like that, and I am just so grateful that you brought this to us and you decided to share it with everyone here. It's an honor to help you do that. We will let you go back to the audience.
See you later.